Now friends, we are moving towards the last topic of the chapter number 4, and that is known as infertility. What do you mean by infertility? Infertility is a condition in which the fertile couples or the couples will not produce children. That means they are unable to produce children. That means after marriage, if the children are not produced, the condition is known as infertility. And for infertility, various kinds of reasons are responsible. The first reason is physical. That means either of the parents or either of the member of the couple is incapable, that means physically incapable to produce children. Second, that is congenital, that means genital reasons. Third one, because of some kind of diseases, inborn diseases. Fourth one, the drugs. Fifth one, immunological, that means it is a reaction of body. And sixth one, that will be psychological itself. So, in these conditions, the couples are unable to conceive, that means they are unable to produce children. And in this condition, that means in society, this pressure is building on them. And so that they will become distracted, they will become depressed. And so that various kinds of techniques are there, and various kinds of these organizations are there who help this couple to retrieve their reproductive ability or to produce children by themselves by various kinds of techniques. Those systems, that means the different kinds of what we can say, different kinds of centers which are established to retain the fertility, to retain the reproductive ability of the persons or the couples. They are called infertility clinics. That means exactly what they do. They support the children, that means the couples to have children. Exactly, they promote the people, they enhance the reproductive abilities in them, and sometimes various kinds of techniques are also applied to get children, that means to produce children. These infertility clinics, they mostly, what is the function of infertility clinics? They help in diagnosis of various kinds of things. That means why the children are not produced, or what is the defect, either physical or mental or immunological defect in the body of couples. And they help in corrective treatment of those couples, either of parent. And these techniques sometimes over and above these help. Some techniques are also applied to get children. And those techniques are known as ART, that is known as assisted reproductive techniques. Among them, some of the techniques which are widely utilized, they are written over here. The first one is known as IVF, that is called in vitro fertilization. In vitro fertilization means what? In vitro fertilization, that means fertilization outside the body. The fertilization takes place outside the body of the female or mother in almost similar conditions as that in the body. That means the fertilization will occur under the observable and controlled conditions inside the laboratory, inside some of the vessels or battery plates. But the conditions are almost the same. The temperature will be the same, the humidity will be same, the surroundings will be same as in the human body or the uterus or sometimes the oviduct. And it will be followed by the second technique, that is called ET, embryo transfer. This term, that is IVF, this technique is widely known as test tube baby program. Now in this condition, in this technique, what happens? An ovum is taken from the mother, or sometimes from other female, that is donor, and sperm from father or husband or other donor. They are taken. And because of their mating, because of the process of fertilization, zygote is achieved under simulated conditions in laboratory. That means what is that? The ovum is taken from the body of female, the sperm is taken from the body of male, and then they are introduced to each other in the laboratory in controlled conditions. So when fertilization takes place, zygote will be prepared. Now this zygote which is prepared inside the laboratory under controlled conditions, either the zygote or the embryo, that means the primary embryo, early embryo, that is 8-cell stage of an embryo, it is transferred, it is taken from the laboratory and it is transferred into the fallopian tube or oviduct of the female, that is mother. And that is known as ZIFT, ZIFT. That is called zygote intra-fallopian transfer. The zygote or the early embryo, that is 8-cell embryo, they are taken from the laboratory in a controlled condition, then they are transferred into the oviduct or fallopian tube or uterine tube of the female. If sometimes more than 8-celled embryo is there, that means the embryo is either 16-celled or 32 cells, having 32 or 16 plus 2 years, then the embryo is taken and it is not transferred to the oviduct, but it is directly transferred into the uterus of the female, not in the oviduct, directly in the uterus of the female for implantation, and that is known as IUT. That is called intra-uterine transfer. Right? Sometimes above in vitro fertilization, sometimes in vivo fertilization techniques are also utilized. In vivo. That means the embryos, then they are transferred. What happens in vivo? That means these gametes are taken, and gametes are taken and they are free to fuse inside the body of female. So there are different kinds of in vivo fertilizations are there. First one is known as GIFT, gametes intra-fallopian transfer. In GIFT, gamete intra-fallopian transfer, what happens? This technique is applied to the females which cannot produce ova or ovum or egg cell. But the partner or the husband, they are capable to produce sperms. So what happens? The ova and the sperms, they are collected, the ova from the donor and the sperms from this parent, that is husband, they are taken and they are put into the proximal part, that means isthmus of oviduct, to fertilize naturally. That means fertilization takes place inside the body of female. That's why it is called in vivo fertilization. And sometimes the embryo are also transferred in this technique, and that is far better. Now, in those couples, in whom, that means in which couples, the female can produce ova, healthy ova, but the male partners or the husbands or the fathers cannot produce sufficient amount of sperms or sufficient amount of motile sperms or healthy sperms. Then what will happen? First of all, the ova that is produced inside the body of female and the sperm is taken from the father or sometimes from the donor, and they are put again into the proximal part of oviduct. In some of the cases where the number of sperms are less, the number of ova are not clear, then what happens? The ova is taken, the sperm is taken from both the parents and sperm is directly entered to fertilize the ova in laboratory, and that is known as ICSI, inter-cytoplasmic sperm injection. The sperm is directly entered into or injected in the ova or ovum. Sometimes, as I told you earlier, low sperm count is there, or the sperms, they are not motile properly or healthy. Then semen from husband or donor, they are taken and it is introduced in the vagina or uterus of the female or mother, and that is known as intrauterine injection. Intrauterine injection. That means semen is released in the vagina or uterus of the female. The same semen which is collected from the husband or sometimes from a healthy donor, it is introduced, and that is known as artificial insemination. AI, artificial insemination. And last, see, these techniques are very much useful to produce children, and most of them, that means their success ratio is around 97%. But sometimes what will happen? See, two things are there. First one is called the surrogacy. In surrogacy, the ova is taken from the female, that means the mother. But the mother's uterus is not ready for the process of implantation. It is sometimes small, and sometimes it may not happen that the implantation is clearly done in the uterus of the female. So in this condition, ova is taken from the mother, sperm is taken from the father, artificial insemination is done, or sometimes ICSI, intracytoplasmic, that the zygote will be prepared, and that zygote is transferred to the uterus of other female. See, uterus of other female, not mother, real mother, but it is transferred to the uterus of other female, and that is known as surrogacy. And the female in whom the fetus will be born, that is, she is known as surrogate mother. And after the birth of a child, the main right on this child will be of original mother, not the surrogate mother. The surrogate mother will be provided with some of the money, and that is also there. But if all these techniques are failed, sometimes it may happen. That means psychologically or logically, or sometimes because of the pressure of the family, the couples will not be able to produce children through these techniques. The last option is there, and that is of adoption. To adopt a person, that means to adopt a child who is not having his father or mother. So some orphan and destitute children are there in orphanage under controlled conditions on the different kinds of government or non-government organizations. So what we have to do, the infertile couple, they have to go there, they have to register their name, they have to provide all the medical certificates, and after some time they will be called and they will be provided by a healthy child, and they will become father and mother. So that means, see, in this condition, the children or the child will not be from their reproductive cells or gametes. In these conditions, mostly 50% of the 100% of the children will be from their reproductive cells. But here, it will be from another parents. So in all the cases, the infertile or unfertile couples can get their children for their heredity. So this was all about the infertility. And now this lesson is completed. We have completed lesson number 4, right? And in next lecture, we will be having another lesson. Thank you.